Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Porn Free Millennial, where we cut through the noise, expose the lies, and pursue real freedom, breaking free from porn prison. Now, I have a very important question for you. Are you a liar? Now, before you tune out, hear me out real quick. We've all lied before, right? Let's all come clean. We have little fibs here or there throughout life, and we always probably will. But what I really want to get to in this episode is to talk about the kind of lying that eats away at you, keeps you up at night. It really makes you question, like, who am I? And I'm going to explain my experience going through that. I'd say really through my past marriage that ended, and to share some insights there that I gathered. And we're going to talk through some actionable steps that you can take to identify lies that you might be telling yourself, and how to actually have some truth on the other side of that. So just a little background. I think really for the most of my life, I never really considered myself a liar. I think sure there were like little things here and there as a kid, teenager, going through college that I probably fibbed on or lied on, but there was nothing like really in my head that was just so huge that made me question who I was as a person. Probably a lot of that had to do with just ignorance, maybe some arrogance, and also I think just inadequacy of experience of true accountability and what that looked like, and especially in porn. I mean, I think there's other things in life, definitely as kids, that we learn pretty quickly, like don't lie about that, right? But I think with porn in its nature, you almost learn how to lie from the get-go. Like it's part of the game, it's part of the process. Is hey, I have to be able to hide this. I don't want anyone to know about it. So of course, you learn actually to become a pretty good liar when you start with porn at an early age. Pretty confident in saying that. I mean, it's definitely embedded in the process of watching pornography and consuming it, is being secretive about it, especially as a kid. I mean, maybe as an adult, as you're older, maybe it's something that you talk openly about. But I would say for the majority of people, including myself, it's something that it was not something I talked openly about. It's something that I was pretty ashamed of. Something that also hurt my ex pretty deeply, and also caused a lot of pain in myself. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But yeah, I never really thought of myself as a liar. Like I never really considered me as an actual liar. I think probably just had a different perspective of people that I'm like, oh, that person, that's a liar. That's like a bad person, right? They're trying to manipulate somebody. They're trying to deceive someone on purpose to get ahead. And I never really heard myself be called a liar by somebody else until I was in my past marriage. And yeah, my ex, I remember a lot of times her just saying, "You're a liar. You lied. You lied to me. You're gaslighting me. You Omission is a lie, right? Like you're not being honest, and you are a liar." And that really stuck with me. It still sticks with me today. Uh, and it's not something that I'm defensive of anymore. It's just something that I accept, to say, yeah, like you actually have to accept these things. You have to accept the honest truth. You can't run from it. You actually have to face it and say, like, yeah, like I was a liar. I did lie. I did gaslight. And that's when I think the true change comes. So that's really why I wanted to talk about this message. But yeah, I had to face the truth I was running from. I was a liar, and really not just to her, not just to my ex, but also to myself. Like at the very end of the day, like we're lying to ourselves. That's who we're tricking, and then I think it ripples to other people that are in our life, especially the people that are closest to us, right? So yeah, it took me a while to fully understand that, and how deeply hurtful it was to her and to myself. I think there is like a level of betrayal, humiliation that the other person that's on the other side of it faces, but also like us, I think. I know for me, I've gone through that a lot, where it's almost like you feel like you betrayed yourself. Like you betrayed this person that you're putting on the outside. It's almost like you're putting like a caricature out up there of, hey, this is who Mac is. This is an honest person. This is someone that you can trust. This is somebody that doesn't lie to you. It's someone that's going to follow through. I'm a man of my word. I always tell people this, and I do want to do a podcast or write about it at some point, but there was a time in my life, I remember when I was in Catholic school, where I was addicted to porn, and in high school too, as well. Sometimes it'd just be like if I was shaking hands with like an adult, especially, or if I was around like a grandparent, somebody that I really respected. Sometimes I felt like when I stared in their eyes and I shook their hand, it's almost like my eyes would kind of falter or I'd want to look away. And that's really how I measure myself today is that I can just look people in the eyes for as long as I want because I don't have anything to hide. I'm not looking away. I'm fully engaged and I can shake your hand. And when I'm shaking your hand, I'm giving you my word of who I am. And for a really long time, I really reflected on this. Like my dad's got like the greatest handshake ever. His fingers are like this wide. Like it's crazy. But he always taught me how to give a good handshake. And his handshake is like a legendary thing in my friends' circles in my family. We always talk about it as like my dad's handshake. And why I just bring that up is because I think when you're shaking someone's hand, you're looking them in the eye. Like to me, I think that that means a lot. It still means something in this world. And for a while in my life, when I look back on it, I had to be like really honest and be like, yeah, you weren't feeling all the way truthful, were you, when you were shaking somebody's hand, when you were looking them in the eyes? And I think sometimes it takes you actually like living into the truth and living authentically in that truth to understand, oh, like that was not the truth. Like that was actually a lie. That was a bluff, right? Sticking with, we're going to talk about some poker metaphors today, but in analogies. But I think for me, yeah, just the handshake. It's kind of a way to lead into what I'm going to talk about. But for me, I just look back on that time when I was doing that and it's a really stark memory. Can really remember. It's like I almost was there when I think about it like right now. It's almost like I can imagine the lobby of the church, of the Catholic church I was at, like after church where you're talking to all the adults and everything. My dad's hamming it away with people for 30 minutes after church. That was always something. We're like, can we go now? But yeah, you'd interact with people. You're definitely putting on your best face, right? And you're shaking people's hands. And yeah, I just remember that. So I just wanted to add that in there really quick. But anyways, back to what I was saying is I think I think when the truth like really hit me, I think going through my past marriage that I was a liar, it really did shatter me into pieces. Like I said at the very beginning, I never really thought of myself as a liar, right? So I think when that hit me, I think that image that I built for myself that was this man of integrity, it crumbled because I really understood that, yeah, like I've been lying about this all whole time. Like this person I'm putting out there and this husband that I'm telling myself I am, you're living two separate lives here. Like, which is it, right? Because you can't have both. And I think that's what we struggle with when we're addicted to porn or other destructive habits is it's almost like we know that this is not who we are, but we still choose to do it. And I think that's part of the addiction is that it's like compulsive. And I think something that really helps is identifying that we're actually lying to ourselves. We're lying ourselves into this habit. And if we can understand that we're actually lying, we can have that awareness to say, hey, I'm actually lying to myself right now. And to have like that awareness, call yourself out, look in the mirror, that can really help lead you to a breakthrough where you can start working on the healing aspect of it. But yeah, I think I'm going to tell a little bit of the story in a second, but to lead into it, you know, it's almost like I was like living this double life, right? And I like to play poker with my buddies. Nothing serious. I mean, gosh, whenever we play with each other, it might be like $20 that we might put in for the night. And we'll do like dealer's choice, and each person gets to play like what kind of game they want to play. But a card in poker is the two-faced jack. And it's kind of it stands for in a way mythology wise, I think, if I'm getting this correct, but there's two faces of the jack. So basically, you've got your the good side and the bad side, and it typically represents someone that's a liar, someone that's a cheat. As they're showing you one face, but on the bottom of the card, it's a different face facing a different direction. So, uh, using that analogy, right? I think for me, the double life is the two-faced Mac. Uh, I thought I could play this hand forever, this double life. But the truth is, it wasn't the luck of the draw. It's not like just some hand that I'd play every once in a while. It's really the cost of the gamble. And I think the gamble came with the use of porn. I didn't quite know like how much I was actually gambling as I was playing, or even that I was like playing a game. It was a very unconscious kind of thing because it started so young. But I think when I look back on it and I reflect, I think playing this game, uh, getting involved with the consumption of porn and having it be such a crutch for me in life, something that I would escape to, that I'd use to medicate. Uh, I think that really taught me that like porn really stacked the deck against any form of honesty in my life. It was always there, right? Like I didn't really quite repent and solve it. I didn't quite go to the root of like why am I going to this? Like why am I using this? Why can't I stop? So it was always there in a way, right? So it always hovered over even the best moments in my life at that time. It was still there, and that really, looking back, that bothers me because now, like living sober, living free of it, it's such a different feeling. Like I don't have that monkey on my back. I'm not playing that two-faced jack, right? I'm not bluffing. Like this is who I am. And I think just like every gambler knows at the end of the day, I think the house always wins. And I think that's something I've come to realize with porn is that if you consume it and you let it into your life, it's always going to win at the end of the day. It's going to take from you. It's not going to give back to you. You might get like a little bit, right? Like you might win a few hands, you might get some chips. You might think, "Hey, I'm doing real big, or I'm playing real big. I'm going to walk away with a lot of money. I'm going to walk away with a lot of benefits." But like we all know, right? Like you go to gamble somewhere. For me, I really don't gamble that much. But I've gone to like Black Hawk before, which is in Colorado, in the mountains in Idaho Springs, close to Idaho Springs. Uh, and I don't think I might have walked away there one time, like maybe winning a little bit, but I'd say majority of the time I've been there, I've lost money, right? And I think that's what a lot of people could say when they go to the casino is you're hardly ever going to win, but everyone thinks they're going to win, right? And that's why you play. And I think that's kind of like with porn is like we think there's this benefit, this big benefit, like, hey, if I keep going to the slot machine, I'm going to win someday. And before you know it, like you've lost your house. And for me, I mean, I lost my marriage. I lost a lot, and I was playing the game, right? So, why I talk about the two-faced Jack actually is it was an actual moment in my life where this came up. It's in couples therapy with my ex-wife. It still haunts me to think about it, but we were sitting in the back of the dojo. So my therapist that I still have today, love him to death. He's a great guy. Uh, we started initially, I think, with couples therapy with him, and then I think my ex stopped going, and then I kept him. Uh, but anyways, owns his own dojo, which is really cool, and then the therapy is in the back of the dojo. But anyways, we're sitting back there, and I think he asked us to illustrate ourselves and then like the other partner kind of in like the worst state, like what's like the most haunting kind of state. And I remember to describe myself uh, in my worst state, I actually described the two-faced Jack card. So on the top is the attractive, charismatic Mac of all trades, the man I wanted to be seen as. But on the bottom, like really the reality, which is why we were at therapy, was lying, cheating with porn, that Mac, wicked smile, reflection of my hidden addiction and the deceit I carried with me. I think that that image it still sticks with me. I remember thinking about it and just how I pictured myself with this wicked grin, kind of like, uh, yeah, like I'm getting away with this and I'm getting everything I want. And it's at your behest with your suffering attached, and I'm still doing it. And I think I think when I think about this image, it still sticks with me. But it reminds me of the person I could become again if I fall back into this destructive habit and I believe the lies that I'm telling myself. So wanted to bring that up because maybe there's something that you can visualize you at your worst. And I know it's not fun. It wasn't fun when I did it, but I think it helped me. It helps really burn that image of your in your head to know like how destructive like you can be by lying to yourself and then lying to others. It's important to like I think know that. And I think for me, unfortunately, it took me hitting rock bottom multiple times to really understand it. But hopefully this message, this podcast can help you realize that, yeah, like you're not too far away from destruction if you keep lying. Like it's going to catch up to you. Like the truth always comes out. So really think about that. Now, there was a deeper lie that I told myself. So of course with porn, I never thought I was a liar. I thought I could hide it. But really, I think the biggest lie I think that I believed in my own life was that I had no worth. That was really something that was in childhood, something I'll talk about at a later time. But that was the probably the biggest lie I can think about in my life that really triggers the response to medicate with porn is that I believe that I don't have any worth, and that as a part of that I'm unworthy of love. And I think when my divorce was imminent, that lie, and I think I've talked about this before, is it nearly, led me, like I considered ending it all. I did because I just was like, I don't have any worth. Like I'm worth less. Like why go on? Why go on if I have no purpose? I have no meaning. I have no vision ahead. It's all darkness. Why why would I just keep doing this? Like, what does it matter? That's what I remember saying over and over again. Really, I was at my lowest in my life was when I just said, what does it matter? And I think if you're listening to this now and you got some tightness, I'm right there with you. I think I think our lies, I think they can this can really show how life or death they can be these lies we tell ourselves. I mean, not just for our relationships, like my relationship died, but also for ourselves. Like I was almost there, and that's not good, right? And if you've ever been there, just know you're never alone, and to seek out help because I did, and I prayed, I prayed deeply to God to save me, and He did, and I'm very grateful for that. But I think part of that, right, is the truth, is seeking that truth and breaking through those lies because those lies they can weave their way around a lot of things. They can build this web almost, but maybe what looks like a road that you can walk on or something that is going to hold you up, this lie ends up becoming a noose, ends up becoming a constricting snake around your neck, around your brain, around your heart, your willpower. And we've got to break through that. So, to kind of use an analogy here, talking about poker to get back to that, we're gonna use the house of cards mentality. So looking back on that season of my life, it didn't matter how many chips I collected, how many small victories I won. It was all a bluff. I built a house of cards with lies, covering up my addiction when honesty mattered the most. And like all fragile things that are built on deception, it came crashing down. And I went in all in on a false identity, believing I could be a loving husband, a trustworthy friend, solid man. But the whole time I was secretly carrying the weight of my addiction. I lied not just to my ex-wife and the people who trusted me, but I lied to myself. I told myself I could keep it hidden, that no one would ever know, that I could manage it all on my own. But just like a bad hand that resurfaces no matter how many times you shuffle the deck, the truth always comes to light. And when it did, I lost everything. Everything, like the marriage, finances for a while, the house, my dignity, my identity for a while. It was a dark place, guys. And I share this with you, hopefully, as a warning. Warning, warning, stop lying, stop lying, stop lying, stop lying. I remember one thing I remember just past marriage was just it was more about like the lying than it was actually the porn. Like, of course, the porn it's a sin, or if you're not religious, it's something like you can find a lot of negative things to talk about porn. I know I do. There's more to talk about, I'm sure, about the industry, about how people are manipulated, how people are uh, exploited, and how this affects so many kids, which really pisses me off. But when you just look at it, no matter if you're religious or not, it's not healthy. But really, the act of covering it up is like more painful. It's like that double whammy, right? It's like, hey, I did something that wasn't healthy, that's self-destructive, that also is going to affect like your wife or your girlfriend, how they think about themselves and how they are comparing themselves now to these porn stars and these people that are built up to look like these fantasies, right? These images. And yeah, the lie is actually, I just remember that. And it's not the first time I've heard that, in my life or just in other people's lives, like working with people or talking to people. I think that's really important to remember is it's the lie that really makes the wound sting and fester and become infected is the lie. Because then you have to look at from the time that you looked at porn and you omitted it, you didn't tell her about it, to the time that you're either found out, which is like the worst, right? That makes it the worst, is if you're you unwillingly share this information, right? And you lie about it. Like that's how it all started. I remember with me was she'd ask me and I'd say, no, no, I didn't do it. Right. And then it was like, well, I did, but it wasn't like that much. And then it was like, well, it was actually a little, and it was like 20 iterations later, the truth comes out and she had to do all the work. And if I was on the other side of that, I'd be pretty freaking pissed off too, wouldn't I? I mean, isn't that reasonable to think? Is that that person should is reasonably pissed off? And I think I look back on it like, yeah, like I totally agree. Like with what I know now and the work I've put in, yeah, you were completely within your bounds to be pissed the heck off. And that's probably something to get later is like, hey, how do you heal through that? Right. uh, but yeah, a lot of that anger is very well earned by the mistakes and the poor decisions that we make and then omitting or lying about them. So, anyways, the lie is the thing that's really gonna make it sting, right? That's gonna make it worse. And when you do it over and over and over and over again, it's just gonna really hurt that love tank that you got. The love tank. That love tank that was vibrant and full, where you were trusting each other, she trusted you, and then it's like we're just taking like gosh, just like a crowbar, a sharp crowbar, and we're stabbing at that love tank. Or heck, it's like we're shooting a shotgun at it from a distance, and there's little pellets going in, and there's fuel leaking out. You can only repair that thing for so long before it's completely unusable, right? And I think when we tell the truth, when we start to repair, we can repair that love tank. But if we're just shooting shotgun shells at it, and little pellets are going in, little buckshot, and the fuel's coming out, and the more we shoot, the more that fuel's going to drip. And when we try to fill that love tank back up, it's just going to go right through the holes again. So I think that's just something that I really wanted to get across is that you can really you can really lose everything if you keep lying. Just take it from me. Now I'm back on my feet, doing well. I had to go through some really hard times, and I hope that you don't have to go through that. So, talked a little bit about the House of Cards. Now we're going to talk about playing against yourself. And like we are talking about earlier, when you lie, it's not just deceiving others, it's deceiving you. So I kept telling myself, hey, I've got one more hand to play, one more chance to turn it all around. I thought I could outmaneuver the truth, but really, I wasn't playing against the world. I was playing against myself. Every lie that I dealt out, every excuse that I laid down, every bluff I made, it wasn't just fooling others, it was fooling me. And that's a dangerous game. High stakes. The longer that you lie to yourself, the harder it is to see the truth when it's staring you right in the face. So for this part of the podcast, I wanted to talk about the 10 big bluffs of porn poker. So like a gambler in a high stakes game, porn convinces you that you're in control when in reality the deck is stacked against you. So we're going to talk about the 10 biggest bluffs we tell ourselves with porn consumption and how they keep us trapped at the table. So the first one is the low stakes lie. So number one, the low stakes lie. And that's saying to ourselves, this isn't a big deal. But the truth is, a habit that damages your relationships and integrity and self-worth is always a big deal. So what's the next best action with that? It's to reflect on the real impact of your habit. Write down 3 ways it has negatively affected your life. So think about this one for a second, right? The low stakes lie. This isn't a big deal. Obviously it is. You're listening right now. So take a second as you're thinking whatever you're doing and take some time later today or right now to write down 3 ways that porn has negatively affected your life and lying about it, right? All right. Number 2 is the illusion of control. I can stop whenever I want. So like in gambling, right? If you keep coming back, you're not in control. When you're compulsively going to porn, you're not in control. And admitting that you're powerless, that you have this powerlessness in your life is the first step to actually regaining control. I know it sounds crazy, but when you say you're not in control, that's actually when you can start working on ways you can gain back that control in your life. So here's something that's just really small that I want you to focus on. And if you have some sober days going for you right now, great. If you don't, this is perfect. Wherever you're at in recovery, this should work for you. But just set this goal to go 24 hours without watching porn and use this time to assess your cravings and your triggers. And admitting powerlessness, it's really that first step to regain the true control in your life. So, number 3, we've got the rigged game. Well, everybody does it, right? I mean, when you think about it, and I don't know all the statistics, they're probably everywhere, but max statistic with porn consumption. How many people watch porn on a regular basis? Let's just say once a day. I mean, gosh, it's got to be pretty high. I mean, once a week would probably put you maybe in 70, 80% of people, of men at least, in the US, let's just say. But I mean, it's a worldwide thing. But gosh, I mean, it's up there, right? It's above 50%, even if it's like once per day. I just know this from experience for working with other people, just thinking about like human behavioral instincts, right? The craving of sex, and then just how porn is accessible, it's free, there's anonymity, you can do it in private, and then afford or sorry, so you got accessibility, you can find it on your phone at the touch of a button, and then you have affordability, it's free, and then you have anonymity. Anonymity, that's a tough word. Those three things, the three A's, that makes any addiction just soar. And especially, right, like sex, that's like the most addictive thing you can think about in the human experience. So you have the three A's, and then you have that. Everyone does it, right? The rig game. But really, the truth of this is just because it's common doesn't mean it's healthy, right? Like that's the truth of this. Just because everyone does it doesn't mean we should do it. It's actually not healthy for us. And we've talked about this earlier in the podcast. Hopefully by this time you listening to this message, you can understand that this is not something that's healthy for you or for your relationship. So what I challenge you to do is to break free from the crowd. You just want to be another sheep. You just want to be another follower. You just want to follow what other people do if they're freaking walking off a cliff. I don't think so. Break free from the crowd, choose higher ground, see life from a higher elevation. I think you and the people in your life are going to thank yourself for that choice. So really the next best action, I think, for the everyone does it, the rig game lie that we tell ourselves is to find a mentor, find an accountability partner or a community that aligns with your values. And I think that will that person in your life will help you because they're already at that higher elevation, they're on the higher ground. They've already broken free from the crowd, so they can help you. I do one-on-one coaching. There's other groups that I've talked about before on the podcast. And there's communities as well. There's Porn Addicts Anonymous. I think it's a great community. There's also the I Am Sober app. They have a great community for porn, masturbation, people that are trying to break free from that. And if you're dealing with something else too, like with alcohol, I Am Sober. I love that app. It's a really good app. Try that app out if you're just looking to get started with that. So number four, lie that we tell ourselves: betting on a lie. So I'm not hurting anybody is a common lie. And that was a really big one, I think, in my life for a really long time was, and I think that's a big one for a lot of people is, hey, I'm just doing this to myself. A big one like that would just be like an example would be like you're drinking alone. You'd say, hey, I'm alone. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not bothering anybody. I did that a little bit when I was traveling in my RV through some sad times. I would just drink and I'd just be alone. I'd watch a movie. But when you think about it, if you have a family, if you have friends, if people are relying on you, like you're completely absent, you're out of the game. And yeah, that can affect people. Like that can negatively affect people. Like that can actually hurt people. And there's been instances in my life where alcohol from somebody else caused a lot of hurt in my life. And that actually kind of tied in the cycle of porn where I went to porn to medicate myself to escape from the hurt that was caused by someone else's drinking to escape, if that makes sense. So the truth is, every habit that you have, positive, negative, it's going to have a ripple effect. It distorts relationships, trust, and self-respect, and the respect that people have for you as well. So I think next best action for this one is have an honest conversation with a trusted friend or a loved one about how your habit has affected them. Uh, yeah, this is going to be a tough one, but this is a really important one. If you struggle with this, where you're just telling yourself, I'm not hurting anybody doing this, ask them. They might tell you something different. Like if you're really in that safe environment, and remember this, it has to be a safe environment for someone to be honest with you. So if you're going to be angry or if you're going to be defensive, that person in your life's not really going to want to share that information. So you got to be willing to put yourself out there and to hear the tough truths. And part of that is asking someone how your habit has affected them. All right, number 5. I need this to cope. The emotional crutch. So number 5, the emotional crutch. I need this to cope. This was a big one for me. I mean, gosh, this is kind of the unconscious one for me where I was using porn to medicate this pain I had in my life, this thought that this lie that I had no value. And I think that got became embedded in my life as like I need to cope, like I need something, right? Like I need something. And then that started to creep into other aspects of my life. It was, hey, like, I'm not just feeling sad, but I'm bored or I'm tired. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, or I can't go to sleep. And porn just became like my everything medication to cope for everything. It was crazy. Really, when I look back at the moments where it was just completely compulsive. I mean, I look back at my teenage years, I'm like, oh my gosh, and you mix that with like a adolescent kid with their hands on porn. I mean, that's some crazy consumption there. But even as growing up, out of that, in college, I just remember just times in my life where it just felt like I had so much time I'd lost because I was just using this crutch, this emotional crutch. And I think really that when you look at the truth of this, right, porn is an escape. We lie to ourselves thinking that it's the solution. I've said that before. Like we believe in our minds, like this is the solution. This is going to fix it. But ultimately, when we're really honest with ourselves, this is an escape. And I think the real healing happens when we face our emotions head on. So I think the next best action with the emotional crutch is to start thinking or journaling about your emotions daily. Identify moments when you feel the strongest urge to watch porn. And I think the real healing happens when you do that. And that's a big part of the fast check-ins with my little brother I talk about when we the first thing that we talk about every day when we send each other these voice memos is how are we feeling? Like, what are my emotions like today? And I'll tell you, it's not always like I feel great. Like today, I felt like I was questioning myself a lot. I was really in my head and just kind of had these negative thoughts that I checked in with my brother. And when I did that, I felt like a lot better, like I was able to get those out there. And I think part of that, right, is you're identifying these things ahead of time. And then you're thinking about, okay, I'm feeling this way, but what are things I can do? And one thing I did was when I went on my did my check-in today with my brother, I was actually on a walk. I was walking my dog outside, which is a really good thing for me. It's actually one of the ways that I combat if I am feeling a certain way that in the past would have triggered porn use. I use that as a way to, hey, I'm out in public, I'm outside, I'm doing something active, I'm with my dog, there's a connection there. There's all these like things working that are like working towards a good thing versus the negative thing, right? So think about that. Think about your emotions. Really got to get in tune with your emotions, right? That was something that I struggled a lot with for a while, was emotional intelligence, like understanding that it's okay to be emotional. And I think once you start understanding your emotions better, that can actually help you realize, hey, I'm actually feeling this certain way, and I'm feeling this urge to go to porn, feeling this urge to go to this habit. But when you identify the emotion and you're more aware of it, then you can start to plan out and create some space between that stimuli and that response, that reaction that's like pre-programmed into us, almost like Pavlov's dog when you think about it, it's like the bell rings. Okay, now I go to look at porn, right? Well, now when the bell rings, remove yourself from that. Think about what emotions you're feeling and what's something healthy that you can put in there instead for that reaction, that response. All right, so number 6 is the false win. This one, gosh. All right, this is going to be hard to say, but once I get married, this won't be a problem. Oh my gosh, boy, was I wrong. Or it could be like, hey, once I'm in a relationship, right? If you're single, hey, well, once I have this girl in my life, and we were going on all these dates. Like this won't be a problem anymore. I just look at porn because I'm single and I'm a little lonely. No, this is something that's like pre-programmed in your life. Like I was just talking about, it's like your emotions, it's your feelings. If something negative happens, if somebody passes away, something unexpected, it's like porn's gonna like pull at you so hard. And it's a lie that we tell ourselves. I know it's a lie. I told myself like, hey, like I said, I think I looked at porn about 6 to 8 months, I think after I was married, which I look back on that, I'm like, geez, dude, like, come on. And I had a period of time in the engagement process where I was sober and I was working on that. But it's almost like when I got married, it's like, okay, don't have to worry about that anymore. And when you're married, I mean, when you get married, you got to do all this stuff and it's so busy in a good way. Like there's just a lot coming at you and it's really good. But eventually that kind of wears off and you get back to like normal life, right? And then that's when uh normal habits, your bad habits will start to creep back in. So yeah, marriage, it's not going to fix your addiction. I think what you need to do is bring healing into your life now rather than hoping that circumstances will change you later, that these milestones, that a relationship's just going to change you magically. No, like you're still that same core person. You're in a different circumstance, but you got to fix what's going on with you. Like you have to, or else it's going to be there. I'm just telling you. So the next best action I think is working on your personal healing as you're going into your relationship or as you're in your relationship. If you're engaged, you're going into marriage, you are married, wherever you're at in life, wherever it is, it's now, it starts now. Start working on the healing. And I would say, for me, like when it really first started, I remember when I hit rock bottom, I went to a sex addiction therapist, a Christian sex addiction therapist that really helped me out a lot, like a lot. Like really, I think we did like a trauma timeline of my childhood. We were about to do some cognitive behavioral therapy. We were starting to kind of get into some stuff that I think would have been really helpful that I ended up doing later on with my therapist a few years later. But then I moved, and yeah, and then that led to another build up, another relapse, all that stuff. But I really do think that like seeing someone professional, like an actual like therapist, huge, and someone that's focused on, I would say, like porn addiction counseling. I think that's really helpful. Or coaching, right? Like if you're looking for a coach, someone to help you build momentum, I'm definitely here for you. But I mean, I think either professional counseling, coaching, something of that nature, just someone that's really focused on it, I think can really help you understand that this needs to be healed. This needs to be healed to be able to move forward in a positive way, in a way that's free, that doesn't have those shackles. So don't wait. That's my advice to you. All right. So number 7 is the shifting bet. So this is kind of like I've been I've been guilty of this before. Is like you kind of keep betting a little bit more, a little bit more. It's not like a huge strategy to it, but you're just doing it. I've done that before on the poker table. You're just kind of just throwing in bets. You're not really thinking about it. And I think like that in the porn sense of it is, as long as I'm not watching the really bad stuff, as long as I'm not making those crazy big bets, maybe I'm betting a little bit more every time. That's how porn goes, right? Is like we keep going down that rabbit hole because the old stuff just doesn't really do it for us anymore. We have to look for stuff that's I would say more that's gonna shock us a little bit more. That's gonna get that blood pumping a little bit faster, right? And it escalates really quickly, from where you start. And I think that's the same with betting. Is like you just keep going, like you feel that that thrill inside of you, that rush, right? And I think the truth of it really is any use of porn distorts your perspective on intimacy and relationships. Like really any form of it, right? It's fake, it's manufactured, it's not real. It's not really your relationship with who you are and who you are with your partner, with your spouse, your girlfriend, or when you're single, just who you, who you are person of integrity, but you're sexualizing people. You're looking at them as objects. You're doing in private. You're a voyeur. A voyeur is somebody that's kind of like peeking and watching someone from afar. It's almost like, just imagine if you were just staring in your neighbor's house while they were being intimate, and you're just watching it and you're pleasuring yourself to that, and how unsettling that is. And that's basically what we're doing when we're watching porn. And really our only excuse is like, well, it's a screen, it doesn't really matter. And well, it really does matter when you think about it. Psychologically, it does. uh I'd say, feel to your body, to your mind, to your spirit, your relationships, it matters all around. So don't tell yourself, hey, as long as I'm not watching that, like those people watch that stuff. I don't do that. I only watch this stuff. It's all bad. So I'd say there, next best action, educate yourself on the neurological and relational effects of pornography. Read books or listen to podcasts on this topic. So I have some stuff in my podcast. I can put some things in the show notes, uh, and link to some articles I think I've had in my newsletter that talks more about like the actual neurological and relational effects. I talk a lot about like personal experience. I think, later podcasts, I want to talk more about, data, scientific research, things like that. But there's a plethora of that out there. I mean, if you just go to like Chat GPT and just say, hey, bring up neurological and relational effects of pornography, you can get some stuff if you Google it. Just don't Google porn, but actually, read about it. One book that I've read is, I'll show this, Takedown of Pornhub. This one really speaks to me. We'll do a podcast reviewing it, but basically, this lady, Lila Micklethwait, she uh, really had this personal mission to uncover just all the illegal uh, child abuse, child porn, sex trafficking, exploitation, all these things that Pornhub is actually monetizing, and a lot has been done in a good way from her work. And I mean, just reading that, and when I was 10, just being exposed to things that were really traumatic. I probably was exposed to rape when I was 10. I probably put those away deep in my mind where I can't really pull it up right now, but I do remember seeing very graphic things. And I'm sure there was exploitation. I'm sure there were things that were done that were terrible that I watched, and I had no clue really what I was watching. I was like just a kid. And even growing up, whatever age, we experience this stuff, we're consuming it, we're part of it. And all of it's bad, in my opinion. And I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's healthy for the mind. And uh, I think that's really important, that we come to that realization. So don't place that shifting bet. All right, number 8, playing with a marked deck. So playing with a marked deck is basically like you're cheating, and no one else can tell. Now in the Wild West, that would get you shot. uh, but really, what that means is, hey, I can keep this hidden forever. But I remember I told myself that one time. I said, hey, I'm going to keep this secret of the grave. I remember telling myself that. It's one time I relapsed, and what an idiot. Of course, it wouldn't stay a secret forever. And like, why would you want to live with that weighing on you, right? But secrets don't stay secret. True freedom comes when you step into the light. And I think the next best action with this one is make a commitment to tell a trusted person about your struggle this week. And that could be your accountability partner if you have one, your mentor, your therapist. Just tell somebody, make a commitment. Tell someone that you're struggling. That's all you got to say. Hey, I'm struggling with this and I need help. That's all you got to say. It's that simple. It is difficult, but once you get it out there, once you get the truth out there, you have to go through the necessary process. And the necessary process is not, it's not just easy process, it's cheery process. it's tough, but what I'll tell you though is that when you get through it, which you will, you're going to be a much better person. You're going to see life through such a different lens. Like where I'm at today to where I was at a few years ago, it's so much different. Just feel like I'm so much more calm and collected. I see so much more of the beauty in things and in people. I can just look at people and just see them as people that have their own dreams, their own aspirations, and that everyone's interesting. To where with porn before is just like nobody was really that interesting, right? Like especially women. You just look at a woman, kind of be sizing them up on how attractive they were, and that's just how the mind worked, the porn mind. And I look back on that; it's really sad. It's a sad way to look at people and to live life, especially as a Christian. I mean, that's inherently right. Uh, my belief is that God, that we're all creations of God, right? That we're all created in His image, and yeah, we're all creations of God and made in His image. And I think when we're consuming porn and we're stuck in that mindset, we start just to look at people as objects. And I think I think that's just not a good way to live life, is to look at people as objects. Um, so that brings us into number 9 is cheap grace and costly consequences. So I think you can apply this being like a Christian, not being a Christian, but just saying like God understands, I'll ask for forgiveness later, or hey, I'll just ask for forgiveness later from my wife or from my girlfriend. She'll forgive me. I mean, she's forgiven me before, for this. But I think grace is a gift, right? And I think grace really only truly comes and is truly that gift is when we actually repent and and we like you can't really accept grace, I feel like, if you don't really put in the work to repent. Like someone can forgive you, but is it really fully completed this grace that's given? Is it really fully accepted into your heart if you don't actually change your ways? I think that's like just cheap grace. And I think if you think that that's the way that you can just get by and skate by, I think that just is going to lead to costly consequences. And I think it's just going to keep you stuck in cycles of shame because you know that you're causing harm, but you keep doing it rather than just transforming yourself through repentance, through actually accepting the grace. Because that's the thing is when someone like truly forgives you and they say, hey, you wronged me, but I love you, I forgive you. And we don't accept that gift. I mean, how hurtful is that to that person that put themselves out there, that took the higher ground, that gave you that second chance? And then it's almost like you're kind of spitting on their hand and saying, no, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. I think that like we got to think about the other side, right? And how they feel. So I think the next best action for that one is to set a plan of accountability. And I think instead of just relying on forgiveness after the fact you do something, I think create safeguards to prevent that relapse. And I think for that one, what I would say the 24-hour rule is really important. I think if you do have a relapse, you look at porn, uh, take some time to think about this, to talk to your accountability partner, your mentor, your therapist, communicate that, I think, and then have a plan for how you're going to discuss it with the person that you're with. I think if you're single, I think you need to be able to tell your accountability partner, right away within that 24-hour period. That really just helps, I think, start to it starts that path of actually living in accountability and actually seeking repentance. Because if you're just continually relapsing and you're living into at least the the spirit of telling someone within 24 hours, just think how like exhausting that would be just to tell someone. I remember that was something when I was relapsing this one point in my life, but I was telling, on myself, my accountability partner, it just sounded like I'm like, dude, I'm like a broken record. It's like every day. And it gets to the point where you get fed up with it. You're like, like this is stupid. Like I just keep relapsing and I just keep saying these lies like, okay, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna figure it out today. But then you're not actually putting in the actions and the accountability to prevent that relapse in the first place, right? So I think the 24-hour rule is a really great way. When you start incorporating it, I think your frequency, if you're struggling with that, will start to lessen. And it's almost like, hey, I'm doing it every day. Maybe it's every other day, and then it becomes once a week, then it becomes once a month, then once a year. That's kind of how it goes when you're actually living into it, your frequency will start to lessen as you live into that accountability and actually, accepting grace as well, from the people in your life and from yourself. Give yourself some grace. Now, number 10, the last one, folding before the comeback. This is just who I am. I mean, there was so many times where I accepted that in my life. I said, this is just the person I am. This is who I am. I'm addicted to porn. I'm never going to be able to quit. And really, like, gosh, you think about that. Like you're folding your cards and it's like you're folding your cards. Like let's just say you're playing Texas Hold'em, you get two cards face down. And let's just say they're two aces, right? And you're just so dejected, you just don't even want to play anymore. You're like, I fold. I'm out. I don't even want to play. You have two aces, and you could have won the whole hand, you could have won the whole game, but you quit. And I just want to tell you, you're not your addiction. And I think freedom really comes when you choose to refuse to accept that false identity, to push back and say, I'm not going to give up. I'm coming back. I'm going to make a comeback. And hey, I might lose here or there, but we're playing a different game. So for this last step, I really want you to write a statement of identity and affirmation. Repeat this daily to reinforce your commitment to change. Because I think the freedom is possible. And I'm living proof, I'm living in it. I've been podcasting now, gosh, since 2023. So if you start from the beginning, you can see my journey where I have had a time where I faltered and I got back up on my feet. Episodes 8 and 9. Listen to them. It happens. But I'm not that person. I'm not that person anymore that's just going to accept that I'm addicted to porn. I can't live without it. I actually am living without it. I'm kicking porn's ass because I'm living into a new identity where porn doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve a purpose anymore. I'm not playing the same game. I'm not playing poker anymore. I'm at a completely, I'm out of the casino. I'm outside. I'm fly fishing up in Colorado, up in Black Hawk. That's where I was trying to figure. I said near Idaho Springs, really Black Hawk, Colorado, is where the casinos are. But anyways, uh, or it's gosh, I'm like what is the name of it? I'm gonna look that up really quick. I no, it's Black Hawk. I can't believe I'm spacing on this right now. Let's see, Black Hawk Casino. Where are we? How does Black Hawk work? Yeah, it's Black Hawk, Colorado. Oh, Central City. That's what I was thinking about. Anyways, I think they're two neighboring towns actually. So I'm kind of like both, right on both cases. But anyways, um, I'm not in Black Hawk Casino. I'm at the stream. I'm fishing in the river. I'm enjoying nature. I'm enjoying being able to control who I am. Still in the wild environment, right? Like I'm still out in nature. But I'm in the river. I'm familiar with this place and it calms me. It brings me peace to to wade in the river, to be connected to be in my flow state to where when I'm in the casino, I think I'm in control, but I'm actually not, and I'm just losing over and over again. I have that rush, but it's not a healthy rush. It's like I'm being fed on, and I have like that adrenaline in my system to fight back. But what I'm really doing is I'm just giving this vampire more and more of my energy. But when I'm out fly fishing, there's no vampire sucking on me. I'm just with the earth. I'm with God. So I think just remember, porn sets the rules. It rigs the game. It stacks the deck with lies, and it's going to keep you in that cycle of loss. So don't play by its rules anymore. Start playing your own game and stop playing this losing game. Take back control, set your own values, and go all in on real freedom. So, to close out, freedom begins when we expose the lies, we break the cycle, we step into the truth. But you don't have to do this alone. If this message resonates with you, hey, we can always do personal coaching if you're looking for someone to help you along the way. I do offer that one-on-one coaching. If you're interested in that, I do have that in the notes. You can email me at pornfreemillennialcoaching@gmail.com. And we can work together to create a plan that leads to your lasting freedom. Also, on my Substack, every Friday, I have a 52 Weeks of Freedom series, and that breaks down practical steps for recovery. And then every Monday at the start of the week, I also send out a weekly newsletter that is focused on encouragement, on insights, strategies, community. There's a lot in there. And I've been doing that now, gosh, I think since October, I've been doing my weekly newsletter of last year. And then the 52 Weeks of Freedom started up this year. But yeah, if you believe in this mission, subscribe, support the message, share it with other loved ones, because I want to help create a ripple effect in people's lives so we can live free of this vampire. And one more thing, if you're listening to a podcast on Apple, Spotify, take a moment to rate it, take a moment to leave a comment, share it with somebody who needs to hear it, because I think a lot of people need to hear it. I think your support will help create a ripple effect, spreading hope and truth further than we can imagine. Let's just get this out there. I think porn really starts to fall apart at the seams in people's lives where we bring it out in the light and we're not afraid to talk about it. We're actually open to discussing it, to discussing what pain it caused in our lives, but also what steps we're going to take to move forward and remove it. And I'm telling you, when you remove it from your life, and there's always that chance back there that it can sneak in. But when you're taking active steps, one day at a time, to remove it out there, you can really break free, live free, and stay free. So everybody, keep fighting the good fight and go all in on freedom. Talk to you later.